Guys, let me give you some chance for a few people come on in. You can keep the music up a little bit. I like it a bit. Come on in, y'all. We're going to be talking about the Mesolimbic system and methamphetamines. If you are having any challenges with methamphetamines, it's going to be overnight. I'm not sure that's when people understand things at this level. So if you have any issues with methamphetamines or cocaine or substance abuse, you probably need to get under our care, particularly here where we live in this part of town. So, Okay, guys, let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and get started. Okay, guys, first let me look at if there's any comments. Neha, what's up, guys? What's up, guys? Neha, you should be on the show with me. I'm sending you the link. Let me see here. Hey, guys. Hey, Nayab. Nayab, you should be on the show, too. Nayab, I know you're not, but I'm going to send you the link anyway. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see. Today, this discussion is going to be on the mesolimbic pathway and methamphetamines. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and look up here methamphetamine, mesolimbic. So let me pull this diagram up again and go back to what we were studying before. Remember, this is the mesocortical pathway here, and this is the mesolimbic pathway. This mesolimbic pathway is primarily reward and learning and motivation center. And this is the target for the drugs of abuse, is highly innervated with dopaminergic neurons. And so many of the substances that target dopamine, such as cocaine, methamphetamine, ecstasy, things like that, are typically used to target this network here. And today we're going to go through methamphetamines. And methamphetamines are a particularly dangerous set of substances because they create so much excitation within those nerve cells that the cells can die due to overexcitation. And when you get that cell death, it creates a lot of other problems. You know, how are you going to clean the debris up? How are you going to clean that place out? How the other nerve fibers are going to work? You know, in order for your issue to be resolved, it has to call upon your nervous system, which has to create inflammation. The inflammation makes the blood-brain barrier more porous. And after the blood-brain barrier is no longer serving as a semi-permeable barrier, but yet has huge gaps in it, then all the contents in that serum can get into that cerebrospinal fluid space, and you don't want that. So the cell death leads to inflammation. That leads to a cascade of a number of events that causes a lot of problems. So methamphetamines are particularly dangerous because they can cause brain cell death. Accumulation of the brain cell death can cause dysfunction in the entire lobe or the network that has been overexcited. And it causes predictable problems, very predictable problems. Today, 20-something-year-old young person, methamphetamines almost every day, and he's been doing this early 20s, doing this for like 3 or 4 years or something like that. And he presents more with a diminishing soaring cognitive impairment. His attention and concentration is not good, and his memory is very poor. So I did a memory test on him, and his memory is functioning at the level of someone who was diagnosed with dementia, early 20s. Yeah, and I had to, explain to this person that, hey, the selection of methamphetamines is particularly dangerous because that high is associated with brain cell death. And that trade-off is a permanent dysfunction. And so in this case, we have to treat him for the cognitive disorders that comes along with damaging the pathway. The attention problems, concentration problems, the impulse control problems, the organizing your world, completing tasks, multitasking. How is he going to do all of this stuff? Particularly if his memory is not working well. So that's one of the dangers with methamphetamines and targeting this tract. This tract is very vulnerable. And when you get damage to it, you can damage a lot of very important things that you need to sort of survive with. Like, how is he going to work? And this is the early 20s. So a fragile system like this is going to have to be protected for the rest of his life. This is going to need to be able to function. So this is the nerve what we're talking about here. Let me. Okay. And let's see. Did we go with the mesocortical? Yeah, we did the Did we do the pathways for the mesolimbic system? Mesolimbic. Let me see the mesolimbic receptor profile too, because you want to know what the receptors are on this thing, so that we can
know what medications to select to sort of slow it down. Dopaminergic, right? We got those. Okay, that's why we're going to use the antipsychotics. Muscarinic, acetylcholine. That's acetylcholine muscarinic network right there. Acetylcholine, and then look at this. We know glutamate had to be somewhere there. Because overexcitation, that's the man. You know. Um, so from here, for the dopamine agents, we can use the antipsychotics, the typical versus atypical. Typicals are stronger. Atypicals are a little bit weaker, but have a broader receptor profile. The muscarinic receptors for acetylcholine. We'll get to that next. And then glutaminergic receptors. I try to get to the glutaminergic receptors. I try to decrease glutaminergic activity by using both Depakote and lithium. Both Depakote and lithium result in the downregulation of glutamate receptors and a upregulation of GABA receptors. So in these patients, I always try to keep them on Depakote or lithium and try to stabilize things so they're not overly excitated. My concern with the overexcitation is they'll be impulsive, restless, and stuff, and then start using. So I sort of try to activate the muscarinic acetylcholine muscarinic network to decrease glutaminergic activity by using Aricept and or Lamenda. And I do use it in these young kids, 20 something, with this degree of problems, of memory problems. We're going to have to support that brain functioning, you know. Okay, that's the pathway. Let me see hey, Neha, I see you here. Did you want to say anything, buddy? Let me know if chime in anytime you want to. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How about you?
I'm okay. Well, thank you for joining my podcast, my stream. What's going on, buddy?
Doc, I'm just looking at all these things, mesolimbic pathways, and like how dopamine can affect the like patients, and how we can like affect the change the dopamine level for treating the patients and all these things. Amazing, Doc. You are doing such an amazing job.
Well, isn't it amazing to look at someone and be like, "Oh, it's a dopamine story," and "Oh, you got a little bit
Mhm.
too much dopamine." You know what?
Yeah.
It's amazing because when we talking about all the a cluster of these dopamine networks, and
Mhm.
when patients experience an elevation in dopamine, they typically have a certain type of story.
Yeah.
Stories sound like a horror story. It sounds like a horror movie. Yeah,
Yes.
dopamine is like he was around the corner. I could hear the music stop it, and I started to run, and it sounds like you're in a horror movie. That's excessive dopamine. The some of the other neurotransmitters like serotonin, like norepinephrine.
Mhm.
That's like at the end of the Super Bowl where they say, "Hey, you just won the Super Bowl and you won a ticket to Disney World," and everybody says, "Ha ha ha!" That's serotonin. You know what I'm saying? Excessive serotonin.
Yeah.
Serotonin is that Super Bowl celebration. You know,
Mhm.
um, so it's interesting that the neurotransmitter like dopamine have these characteristics and flavors to you. So thank you so much. So here, that's the receptor profile here. Now let me go through methamphetamines. Okay,
Mhm.
let me see what can I. Actually, let me go to. Okay, what about this methamphetamines and the mesolimbic pathway? Let me see what's going on here. Mechanism of action of methamphetamines within the catecholamines and serotonin area. Haha. Gene expression affecting gene expression profiling of the reward effect caused by methamphetamines in the mesolimbic system. So, I mean, I guess this is talking about the intoxication phase. Effects of amphetamines and methamphetamines on the release of norepinephrine, dopamine, and acetylcholine from brainstem reticular formation. We want from the mesocortical pathway. Okay, NIGO started after. Association of a stimulant use with dopaminergic alterations in cocaine, amphetamine. Oh, look at this. Mechanism induced dopaminergic neurotoxicity. I think that's what we need here. Oh, I hope I don't have to pay for the article. This is a preview. Okay. Okay. I'm sure there should be some same thing here. Okay, methamphetamine is a powerful stimulant of use. Okay, all right. Meth-induced damage to dopaminergic neurons was described. Since then, numerous advances have been made. Oh, you know what? Actually, drop. Resourceful. I want the free resources first. Okay. Methamphetamines induce dopaminergic neurotoxicity through multiple interconnected mechanisms that damage dopamine producing neurons. Okay, particularly in the striatum. Okay, below is a concise overview of the key mechanisms. Okay, dopamine dysregulation, oxidative stress. Okay, yeah. Okay, mitochondrial dysfunction. Here it is. Excitation via glutamate. There it is. Like I said, here again. Look, neuroinflammation. The inflammation again. Look, here's blood-brain barrier. Blood-brain barrier here. I told you, apoptosis. Remember Wallerian degeneration. There it is right there. Hyperthermia, they always moving. Meth induces hypothermia. Okay, which exacerbates neurotoxicity by increasing the metabolic stress. Wow, enhancing, I think, requirement of oxygen cycle, promotion and protein misfolding, promoting protein misfolding. Hypothermia also potentiate glutamate release. So the hyperthermia, glutamate release. Okay, so the hyperthermia's mechanism is through glutamate release. Okay. And then let's see, this ROS here is enhancing ROS production. That's this here. Okay, ROS is reaction oxygen. Yeah, reactive oxygen species. Yeah, those oxide radicals. Wow. So dopamine dysregulation. So methamphetamines produce basically superoxide radicals that results in dysregulation of dopamine. All right. And how does it dysfunction? How does it cause mitochondrial dysfunction? Meth disrupts mitochondrial dysfunction by inhibiting complex 2 of, I remember the complex change of that mitochondria of the electron transport chain, reducing ATP production and increasing, so the methamphetamines reduces ATP production and increases radical oxides. The mitochondria, this mitochondria impairment exacerbates energy deficits. Yep. Excitation via glutamate. Meth increases glutamate release in the striatum. Look, overacting the NMDA receptors. There that buddy is again. Now, I use Namenda all the time as a way to sort of decrease this NMDA hyperactivity. So remember, in this young person, I was going to consider starting a cognitive enhancer like Aricept and Namenda, because I know those medications will decrease glutaminergic activity. And I know Namenda, I can target the NMDA receptor through Namenda here. So, for this young person, having him on Namenda would be a good idea from my perspective, And I'm sure people who are not familiar with this area will probably say, why is this kid on Namenda? He doesn't have dementia. Well, yes, he does. Well, he's only 20 something. Okay. 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 Overacting the MNAD receptor. This leads to an influx of calcium. Right. So the influx of calcium triggers the, I guess, the suicide process in the cell. Okay. The interaction between dopamine and glutamate profiles amplifies neurotoxicity as dopamine oxidation produces enhanced glutamate-mediated excitotoxicity. This glutamate is a problem. Glutamate is a problem if it gets out of hand. I think of glutamate as right until the wheels fall off. Here's this inflammation, neuroinflammation. Yeah, meth activates. Okay, here leading to pro-inflammation. Yeah, the oxide, right? Inflammation, exacerbating neuron. Yeah. Oh wow, I didn't know this. Okay, so this activation persists. Wow, wow, I didn't know that activation. This damage persists even after the meth exposure. I kind of thought it was the damage occurs while you were actually using while it was exposed. But I knew it sort of like flipped the switch and the switch stayed on. So let me see this again. So meth activates microalgia, leading to the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Yep. And nitric oxide. These inflammatory mediators exacerbate neuronal damage by promoting oxidative and neural stress. Okay. Okay. It persists. Okay. Very interesting. Hey, look. Remember I said blood-brain barrier disruption? It compromises the blood-brain barrier. And these are major issues, allowing peripheral immune cells and toxic substance to enter brain, further amplifying the inflammation neuronal damage. And that inflammation can be chronic. As you can see, this methamphetamine and using this methamphetamine can be very damaging. So it's important to sort of educate the persons that this is very damaging. And let me see, Neha, any other questions or any input, buddy? Okay. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear your microphone. Let me see. Okay, I got you. There you are.
Okay, so the effect of the meth on the mesolimbic pathway, that's so beneficial. Like it can like direct affect the dopamine D1 receptors, and it can directly affect the brain. It can directly affect the brain's functioning, and the other it affects the one thing that I studied like about the meth. Its effect is the similar as the cocaine.
Let's
Like
go.
we can use, yeah,
Yeah.
and same functioning as a cocaine, but it's helping the patient in the treatment. That's amazing part.
Yeah. Now, actually, let's tell the audience a little bit about your background so they know what area you specialize in. Because I have a question about the movement disorders that
Mhm.
amphetamine causes, particularly during the intoxication phase and things like
Mhm.
that. So, what's your background again, Neha?
Doc, I'm a physical therapist.
Great. Okay. Great. Now, here in that, when the person takes that methamphetamines, it causes the release of the dopamine, and they become very
Mhm.
excitable and things like that. And what effect is that having on his musculoskeletal? Any comments about that?
Dog, huge effects on their muscular system. Like they can become like they can lose their muscular functions completely. In such a way they cannot even walk completely. There is a tremors in their walk, and they walk similar like a, you can say, paralyzed person. The circular walk, they can such a huge effect. And doc, we can also like affect get that back effects through the like physiotherapy or the mind therapy, like the mind therapy, the one you are doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
so much, buddy. Thank you so much for your input. Let me try and see if I have any other questions for the audience. And so here, okay, the first question I have here is exactly how does meth stimulate the mesolimbic pathway in the same way others does? Dopamine activating dopamine, stimulating that, increasing the amount of dopamine in the intersynaptic cleft, and that increases the signal across the pathway, and so the whole pathway becomes more activated when you have more dopamine in the intersynaptic cleft. All of the drugs that target dopamine basically target the dopamine receptors, and it's the same pathway from that point on. I hope that answered that question. Flicking facts. Next, I got Max T. Can therapy alone reverse the neural impact of meth on the reward system? I don't, when you damage these brain cells, I think they're damaged forever. Something as complicated as a nerve cell, I don't think you can, those don't regenerate, so I'm not sure reversing is possible. You can still grow in other areas that minimize those deficits, but I don't think you're going to be able to repair those deficits. Next question. Hash, can someone's brain go back to normal after meth addiction if they don't destroy the machinery? If they destroy the underlying circuitry, then it gets bad. It's very bad. Okay, if there's no other questions for now, then I'm going to go ahead and sign off. It's been 26 minutes so far. I want to try and keep at least under 20 minutes to make it very useful for the students, so it doesn't take too much time to learn this concentrated information. So if there's any other questions, then I'll go ahead and see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much, and I appreciate everything, okay? Thank you, Neha. Appreciate it.